Alright folks, well welcome back to another Xvault gaming video, and today I want to do a special video dedicated to the road to the platinum of Cuphead. So more in particular, what this is actually about is the top 10 hardest bosses of Cuphead. In my opinion, this is totally subjective because maybe some of you that have played it maybe have a different idea of who is harder to you, but nonetheless this is who my top 10 hardest bosses of Cuphead is. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump to it. Alright folks, so if you've been watching any of my previous Cuphead videos and streams, Let's Plays and all that, then you'll see a lot of my struggles starting out with this game. It is very intimidating, and not only the run and gun levels, but especially the bosses. The bosses are very difficult, and they all have patterns, and it gets to a point where you're just like, there's no way I can beat this game. I'm done. I can't do it. But for some reason, it just kind of, for the most part, has a hook in you, and it keeps you coming back and stuff like that. So I for sure at least wanted to beat it. I had that much gumption to try and do for the game. But with the community here that we have built, and you know who you are, you did push me along and got me to believe that I could probably even go for the platinum. I never in a million years would have thought I could do the platinum for this game, so I am very proud of getting this platinum. But again, let's go ahead and get to the meat of the episode here, the stream, the bosses, the gameplay, all that. But no, this is particularly in regards to the bosses, top 10 hardest bosses of Cuphead. So here we go. The first one we're going to go over is Captain Briny Beard at number 10. We're going to go from 10 to 1. Captain Briny Beard. So this gentleman was very difficult, especially in the context that I'm going to give here are through the expert mode even. So not only through the normal mode, but we're going to go through the expert mode here, and that's what ultimately creates this list for me. So I thought he wasn't maybe too bad, but he gets really difficult because he has so much going on, as all the bosses do, but especially here, depending, you have to watch if the shark's coming, if the octopus is doing the ink that it's spraying on the screen. You got to watch for his laser in the third phase. You have to watch for the chest that's constantly dropping and going back and forth, and everything else in between. So there's just a lot going on there. So you just got to kind of keep yourself moving. You got to keep yourself going at it and keep at it. So this one took me quite a bit of tries to try and do, a lot longer than I expected, and definitely deserves to be on that top 10 list here, Captain Briny Beard. So yeah, so you got that. You got to look out for the submarine scope. You got to look out for the whistles and all that. But learn that back and forth, but definitely one of those harder bosses, and deserves that top spot of number 10 at least. So without further ado, let's move on to number 9. And number 9 to me, where he's difficult, is difficult in the third phase, but this is Beppy the Clown. Beppy the Clown, I think the first 2 phases aren't too bad. Honestly, it's pretty easy, even on expert, but it just gets really difficult. You have to get kind of lucky in your dodging and dipping and weaving, especially on that third phase. But he gives you some of those transformations and all that, but that phase 3 is just so crazy. So the coaster that appears comes back, shows up, he's back and riding the carousel horse. The horse is green. He'll fire 2 horseshoes that weave up and down across the screen in that one. But then you get to that carousel and just things start throwing and blipping and getting every which way. So very difficult. So that was a little frustrating, but I don't think this took me as long, but I think I lucked out. It should have took me probably a little bit longer, and I squeaked away with just 1 hit point left, or 1 hit left on that, and I was about ready to probably have to do this another 10 to 20 times if I didn't make it that last time. So there's just a lot going on, but again, once you learn all these move sets and everything, that's just kind of what comes to fruition, comes to mind there. But Beppy the Clown, definitely a unique person, definitely kind of creepy. Of course, he is a clown. Of course, he has all that going for him, but very difficult, deserves that number 9 spot. So without further ado, let's get to number 8. And number 8, you would think that this would be much higher, but number 8 to me would have to be Grim Matchstick. So Grim Matchstick is the dragon to put it lightly. As you see here, the first phase isn't too bad. You can kind of get that. It's manageable with the fireballs and the tail popping up and all that. But the second phase, what's difficult about that is you have the tongue out and you have all those fire guys that are constantly popping up and out. Well, there's no rhyme or reason to those guys. They hit a certain direction regardless. So if you're just not on your toes or you try to fake it out, it may fake you out just because it might be going a different direction. So that can cost you a couple hits or so if you're not on your game, and tip-top shape there. So very difficult there. And then, of course, you get to his third phase, which is really difficult because then he shoots out those orbs. And if you hit the orbs, then you got other flying fire that's at you and sprays towards you. And then while you're trying to dip and dodge and weave that, you got his fire hose that he breathes fire from with one of his heads, depending on the top, middle, or lower section. So there's just a lot going on. And then, of course, you're hopping around to different clouds and stuff like that as well. But a lot going on. This one probably took me more time in regular mode trying to figure him out. So in expert mode, it didn't take quite as long because I spent so much time with him on regular mode that, putting in the expert portion here and having a few extra things going on didn't really deter me too much. It did take me quite a bit. That is why he is number 8. But nonetheless, Grim Matchstick, I'll tell you what, this guy can give you a run for your money. So... but he is number 8 because I just didn't feel like I had to spend too much time dispatching him in expert mode. But moving right along, somebody that did give me a lot of difficulty here was Sally Stageplay. Sally Stageplay to me, wow, that one, I thought that one was pretty easy. I thought in regular mode, or wasn't too bad. Took me a few tries, but man, in expert mode, this gal is just certainly something special as far as trying to figure her out. She's much quicker. She'll jump up. I mean, the first phase is difficult alone, but that second phase is where it's at. She has so much going on. She's dumping and diving at you, or not dumping, but jumping and diving at you diagonally, throwing the fan. You have baby bottles that are being dropped from the background in the Buy a Baby, I believe, in the building. You have little mouse toy cars that are dropping and going back and forth, and it's just a lot going on. And you have very small windows that you're trying to mitigate and get through and not get hit. And so not only that, you finally have that third phase, and you have a few different things you got to do with the moon and star there to try to hop over the tidal wave with what she's doing there. And I believe, yeah, so and as it goes on after that too. But man, I'll tell you what, that second phase is where she gets you, It's very difficult. Took me quite a bit of tries. This is probably one of the most frustrating bosses I had to do on expert, believe it or not. So maybe if I'm rethinking about things, it could be higher, but 7 is definitely a deserving spot with how I feel about that one. So that one did give me a lot of difficulty. So be on the lookout for there. Let me know if that one was difficult for you at all, but that was certainly very difficult for me. Moving on to the next part here, we're doing number 6, and number 6 to me was, I call her Medusa, but her actual name is Cala Maria, if I'm saying that right. And she is basically a mermaid, but that eventually gets turned into Medusa there. So phase 1 shows her boasting, a vast array of attacks is what I was trying to say. But really, ultimately, phase 2 is the most annoying because of the ability to petrify you and everything like that. But I did figure out what made it less difficult. She's still very difficult because the first phase to me is the hardest, though, still, just because she has so many different attacks going on, and then those ghost planes that they have going on, and they split in every which direction. If you can find a way to dodge those for the most part, you're going to be okay. You're going to have enough hit points to survive the rest of the fight, in my opinion. But if phase 1 does not go well for you, then you can almost say goodbye, because it's going to be hard enough to get through phase 2, let alone phase 3. Even though phase 3 isn't that long, it still has a few things you have to miss, so you might need that extra hit point. But phase 1 is very, very difficult. I did struggle with her a lot more, like Grim Matchstick in regular mode, trying to figure her out. And out of nowhere, in expert mode, when she petrifies me, I realized that not only just hitting the X or square button or whatever to break free, I was moving the analog stick as well, and that helped break me out a little bit quicker. So that helped me out a lot. Once I was able to break out of that a little quicker, I was able to kind of tackle that after a few tries, but she is still very difficult. When it comes to difficulty, make no mistake, she is up there for me on my list, and that's why she does take the number 6 spot. And then rounding out the next section of this, we're at number 5 now. And number 5 to me is Rumor Honeybottoms. So this is the Queen Bee character. Boy, this one's just all over the place as well, because it just takes time. You can't just rush in there and do an attack and attack and attack. This one takes time because you have to miss so much. It starts out with the cop bee. And then after that, then she starts making her appearance and starts doing all this random moves and everything, whether it's the triangle move, that's the spacing in and out. You've got the other pink balls that are coming. You've got other bullets that are coming and whipping around, and while always trying to climb up the platforms while the screen's moving and everything like that. So this one is very difficult. As difficult as she is, you can only imagine what the other spots are going to be here. But she was difficult. I can look at this list all the time to me and probably move them around depending on my mood. But subjectively, if I really look at this, I really feel good about this list. And Rumor Honeybottoms definitely is a number 5. I think she could be higher for sure, especially to others. But she is very difficult. And I also kind of squeaked by on that. It took me quite a few tries on Expert. I thought I was going to struggle a little bit more. But nonetheless, I did get that going. So the final phase of her is very difficult as well. Trying to figure out which buzzsaw she's doing if you're not paying attention and getting to the other side. Those are easier to dodge, but when she does the flying fists that are coming out of her plane, very difficult to try to avoid. So hopefully you have enough hit points, or you're just being really good at missing those. But ultimately, that's where she falls on my list for that. Next, let's go ahead and move over to number 4. Maybe, and apologies here, one sec. I know you probably think this guy should be higher, maybe, but maybe not. But number 4 to me is the Devil. He should be higher, but he's not, because once you figure it out, he has only, honestly, one moveset, and it's where the pink balls and the triangle, or not the triangles, but the asterisk type of magic's bouncing all over the screen. That's what's difficult to me. Everything else that you can move around and muster on, he isn't that difficult, especially if you get past that first phase, which is the most difficult, and this is the one I'm talking about. If you get past that first phase, the other two aren't too bad. You just have to, the second phase, you just have to get on the bomb right away. So don't forget about that. Parry the bomb. That's always going to be pink. Dodge that poker chip that's on fire. And then before you know it, you're on, phase 3, and that starts to get a little bit more difficult for that. But he doesn't have that much hit points. So once you get there and you can miss a couple things here and there, you can really get at it and drop them down. But it's really about having a couple extra hit points, getting past phase 1, hoping for the best, because that phase 1 is very, very difficult. And I'm not taking anything away from this boss battle for being number 4. Very difficult. As you can see on the stream towards the very end, my last gameplay, this was very difficult. Took me a lot of tries. My boy was playing with me, and he eventually had to back out, and then I was able to do that. I don't know if that made it a little bit easier, not having 2 players in that. But it certainly, that's when something clicked, and I was able to kind of focus a little bit more on my guy and get the job done. But this is very difficult nonetheless, trying to miss everything there. So thoughts and prayers are with you on that one, trying to beat that one. But moving right along, number 3, Dr. Call's Robot. Now this guy, wow, this guy, he's just very difficult because the first phase is difficult alone. The second phase ain't too bad because he's shooting his head back and forth and you just got to be quick. But that first phase, just having to hit every single section, the antenna, the chest piece, the lower piece with the vent, all sorts of things are coming out. You got the bomb that's tracking you down and you can't be anywhere near that vicinity while it's blowing up. This and that. a lot what I'm trying to think of here is just, there's just so much going on. It's hard to even put in words. There's just so much going on. And then if you're lucky enough, you at least want to try and come away with 2 hit points so you can try and do the third section. The third section is very difficult. The first phase is the hardest by far, but the third, it's difficult, but if you're able to dodge and weave, it isn't too bad. And so that's what I was doing, but going through there. But he spits out all sorts of things, whether it's pink or blue or red or whatever it is. And he just starts doing that, and you got to get all the way through, and then plus find time to shoot at him in his final form. But yeah, that first robot part is just very difficult. It's just so much going on. I got very frustrated with this one, especially in expert mode. And very happy when I finally beat that one. I knew once I beat him that I'd probably be in the clear for the rest of the game at that point. I did go in order. I didn't skip bosses and go back in the expert mode and beat previous ones. I wanted to go in order, so I knew what I was up against. But yeah, very difficult, and good luck trying to complete that one there. So number 2 here, moving on to 2. I wanted to put this person, or this boss, at number 1, but I didn't, just because number 1, and I'm sure you'll know who I'm talking about soon enough, but number 1 has more going for it. But number 2 gave me the most problems, the most difficulty in all of expert mode. And again, he's only outweighed because of the things you have to do for this next boss after this. But this is Wally Warbles. Wally Warbles is the bird. He's just the bird, right? And the bird's the word. Just kidding, that's so horrible. But in this instance, he really is. And man, that first phase is just difficult alone. Every single phase, that's the thing, is like, not just one phase is really difficult, and you can get through the others if you have enough hit points or whatever. It just comes down to the fact that every phase is so difficult. And I thought this wouldn't be that bad. And I started going, and I'm like, wow, this is really difficult, especially for being this early of a boss. This is very difficult. But the first one, yeah, he's just shooting those eggs. The eggs are exploding. It's hitting everywhere. It's so quick. He's doing other things. Other birds are coming along. And those egg explosions are just so quick, you know. And then he's got other bullet things going on and this and that. And then if you're, you know, once you get that done, you're getting hit left and right? And you get to the second phase, and then he's got those million feathers. There's all... You like that expression? It's just doing that, and he's freaking out. So you got to get in the right spot to try and dodge and hit him at the same time. Otherwise, this phase is going on forever, even with your specials that you're tagging him in there with and hitting him. It's very difficult. And then, you know, you get to the part where he's just in the baby phase, where he's having the eggs circle him. Sorry, I'm trying to think. I'm like getting ahead of myself. But he has those eggs circling him, and they get wider, and then they get shorter. You can't hit them. And then he starts coming to you. So you have to get inside there, and then you have to get out just in time while still hitting him while other things are going on, and he's shooting other things. And so that's difficult alone. And then you have the phase where he's pretty much cooked, but he's getting carried by 2 different birds. And he's just in a gurney, so you have to switch to your bomb droppings there. Pretty much the only time you use that weapon in the game, honestly, in the plane mode. But you're dropping that there, but then you got a lot of things being thrown at you and everything. And at this point, you're probably at 1 or 2 health points left, unless you're amazing at the game, of course. But if you're squeaking by like myself was, it makes it very difficult. You're just like, oh my gosh. And I believe I beat it with only 1 hit point, of course. But I was like, wow, you know, you eventually get the motion and the momentum going, but it's just so difficult. So this guy, wow, I really wanted to put him at number 1 because he gave me the most difficulty in expert mode. Very, very difficult. And he's only beat out, like I said, just because of what's going for the next boss here. So with that said, let's go ahead and get to our top pick here, number 1. And that is going to be, of course, you guessed it, I'm sure, King Dice. King Dice here. Now, man, this guy just has pretty much everything going for him. I know some lists out there that I was looking into just for context to see what other people thought as well, even though they're different from mine alone. But some of them broke him apart because he has mini bosses in there. All right, you have the dice. I'm sure you're aware of how this goes, but you have the dice. You have to hit it. Not only that, but you have to get good enough to know the timing of the dice, so you know what spot you want to land on. You don't want to land on a spot where you're not getting a heart. You don't want to land on a spot that's not a free space or something like that either. And then maybe you don't want to land on a spot where you're weak against a certain type of boss that's on that roulette. So you definitely want to master that dice roll first, as far as hitting it and parrying it. But some people broke apart the bosses in there too, and I'm like, no, this is all part of King Dice in general, in my opinion. Otherwise, that wouldn't be fair. Plus, they're mini bosses to me, and even though some of those are kind of difficult in here, they're mini bosses ultimately. The cigar in there is basically a bullet sponge and takes forever. That's the most annoying one in my opinion because it's just a bullet sponge. But as a whole, there's just so much to master in this fight. Because not only are you having to master the dice roll, you're having to master every single, well, you're almost going to have to master every single boss in here, especially if you want to go for the platinum. You're going to have to get pretty dang good and hope for the best. But ultimately, you're going through, trying not to get hit. Some of these mini bosses are going to hit you whether you like it or not. So it's going to take a lot of playthroughs. And then just the fact that as soon as you're done with the last boss or you land on the final spot on that roulette table and you're ready to fight King Dice, you got to get in the headset, the mindset. And this is what was so difficult to me even in regular mode, is like as soon as it hits that, he's ready to go. You better be ready to go for his moves and all that. Because if not, you're getting hit, and if you only have 1 or 2 hit points left, man, you're going to be in for a rude awakening. So one of the tricks was what I was shown in regular mode is get behind the hand right away and just use your, basically your homing hits there. I already forgot what they're called, but, if you're not playing this game all the time, every little thing starts losing track in your mind a little bit. But anyway, your homing attacks there, so you can just shoot up and kind of hit him that way, but you got to kind of dash, get behind his hands. But I wasn't having too much luck doing that, honestly. I did it the official way, which is bouncing on the pink cards, and you have to just do it just right. And jump on them, bounce, get to the next one, bounce, parry bounce, basically. And get through that while you're all trying to hit them in between everything else, right? So that part, once you get that master, it's not too bad. I did get hit quite a few times. I squeaked by with a 1 hit point again on there because for some reason I wasn't able to hit the pink hearts in conjunction, pink heart cards in conjunction with my jump dashes and stuff like that. So thankfully I had a couple hit points left over. I was doing really well throughout the mini boss fights, and that helped me be sustained through King Dice himself. I could have easily gone through much more tries of this guy, but I gave it my all, folks. I gave it my all. So this is why he deserves a top spot, because there's just so much to master. As tough as Wally Warbles was, he was just so difficult to master that because of all the mini bosses, because of the timing of the dice, because of his fight himself, he is just the toughest boss of the game. Once you get him down, as difficult as the devil will be, you can do it. So he's the biggest bad of the bunch, in my opinion, and deserves that number 1 spot for the top 10 hardest bosses of Cuphead. So I hope you enjoyed my list of the top 10 hardest bosses of Cuphead. I did spend time. I've had this in mind, and I had a list down, and I changed the list up quite a bit. And I could probably continue to do that because there's a couple on here that could probably flip-flop just depending. So this list is certainly subjective as well as the other lists out there. But in my personal and humble opinion, and for somebody that did platinum the game, this is my top 10 list. I hope everybody out there enjoyed this list, especially for those that followed along on the streams, seeing my struggles and everything like that. I appreciate that so much. So thanks again for everybody's support. Be sure if you can, let me know in the comments below if you like this list. What are your thoughts? Maybe drop down below your top 10 list of your hardest bosses of Cuphead, and I'd like to see that as well. So if you can, please like, comment, subscribe, turn on those post notifications if you can. That way you don't miss a video from Xvault Streaming, or Xvault Gaming from Xvault Streaming himself, right? And we'll go from there. So I appreciate that. Everybody's support means so much so far. And yeah, we'll keep on switching up the genres and everything like that so everybody gets a piece of what they like. I like to do that, and I like every facet of gaming as well. So if there is something out there that somebody doesn't like or doesn't want to follow on a stream or something, don't feel bad. I don't expect someone to watch something if they're not interested. I don't take it to heart if you're just not going to tune in because you see something pop up and that's not your cup of tea or something. Totally understand. And I'm sure I'll see you on the following stream with something else possibly. So without that being said, I will go ahead and end the video here, but thanks for sticking around for the whole video. Much appreciated as well. And we'll see you guys next time on the next Xvault gaming video. Until then, take care.